Hello everyone and welcome to Fight Night Legends Top 3 Decks. In this series, we follow Fight Night Legends each and every single week. We look at the top performing decks, most popular, and decks to watch of the most recent Fight Night Legends. Before we get into the video, take a second to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to stay up to date with all of our Legends of Runeterra content. Check out all the links in our description to find our social media pages. We've got a lot of people working behind the scenes to keep the content flowing and to allow for our weekly Legends of Runeterra tournaments. Now, back to Fight Night. Fight Night Legends is a 2-deck no-ban format. This allows players to build a lineup with whatever they believe is the strongest deck without the fear of their deck getting banned. In this type of format, you may find players who will build a lineup around one of their decks where the second deck checks the weaknesses of the first, while other players may bring a more standard 2-solid deck lineup. Fight Night Legends 11 was certainly a wild one. The format has certainly shifted since the most recent balance patch, and what is performing this week may surprise you. This week, third place was taken by Matthew Folks, who brought Fiora Shen and Elise Byrne. In second was Glop, who had a very interesting lineup that consisted of Trundle Lee Sin and Aurelian Soul Dragons. Taking down the event this week was Stan, who brought Fiora Shen and, of course, Swain Twisted Fate. Starting things off this time around, our number 3 deck of the week is Dragons, a mid-range Demacia Targon deck that aims to control the board with dragons and eventually win through a dominant board state. Not only is this deck able to establish control of the board early through its bulky units, it also has Screeching Dragon and the Infinite Mind Splitter to stop threats before they get out of control. Fight effects such as Concerted Strike and Single Combat also give the deck a great way to deal with enemy units while often getting a Fury trigger. The deck is able to build an early advantage with Herald of Dragons, which, if not dealt with quickly, will allow powerhouse dragons to enter play sooner than they normally would. While the deck already has solid card quality with its expensive dragons, it also has Dragon's Clutch, which is an efficient draw spell that can buff up the board in a pinch. While Glop was able to find success this week with Asoul Dragons, we also saw other players experimenting with Karma Dragons. Could it be that the Dragons archetype is on the rise? In at number 2 this time around is Trundle Lee Sin, a new take on the Lee Sin archetype with an abundance of combat tricks and bulky finishers. This deck takes excellent advantage of Starlit Seer being filled with 23 spells. The deck is able to find solid tempo trades with spells such as Brittle Steel, Elixir of Iron, and Troll Chant in the early game, or use them to keep its win conditions alive later on. The deck's 3 drops, River Shaper and Shadow Assassin, carry the buffs of Starlit Seer well, while keeping the Trundle Lee Sin player's hand full of options for a longer game. Unlike other Lee decks that we've seen in the past, this deck doesn't look to assemble a Lee Sin OTK by giving him Overwhelm. Instead, the deck looks to simply establish a strong board and Dragon's Rage away enemy threats to chunk down the enemy. Thanks to the recent buffs to Lee Sin, an archetype like Trundle Lee has been able to come into existence and looks pretty promising. The current meta has, in a way, started to revolve around large units and spells. Could it be that Deny and Dragon's Rage is the way to get around it? And the number 1 deck this week for Fight Night Legends 11 is Fiora Shen. Fiora Shen once again proves itself this week in Fight Night, this week taking down the event alongside TF Swain in the hands of Stan. The deck excels at building up the board, then preserves it with barriers while gaining a board advantage. With both a solid curve and a secondary win condition in Fiora and Deny, the deck is able to establish an advantage and carry it to the end of the game. Why has there been a sudden resurgence in Fiora Shen? Lately, the format has been revolving around more expensive units such as Swain, Trundle, Radiant Guardian, and Aurelian Soul. These units don't do well into barriers, and Riposte can find situations where it can get excellent trades against them. The format has also becoming heavily occupied by ramp decks, which rely on Weirding Stones. The challenger units in the deck line up excellently against the stones, slowing down the ramp game plan while furthering Fiora Shen's grip on the board. The sudden lack of Piltover and Zon decks in the format has also helped in giving Fiora Shen the room it needs to breathe in the format. Without cheap burn to remove enemy barriers, they're often able to find powerful trades. Fiora Shen has found itself on Fight Night top decks twice now, and it may be safe to expect its return again. This Fight Night, we saw an incredible show of players who brought expensive strategies like War Mothers and Aurelian Soul. Despite heavy representation of Noxus Bilgewater decks on the latter, they were not common this week, instead replaced by Lee Sin and Dragon strategies. Who would win in a fight? One Blind Monk or one Cosmic Dragon? Let us know in the comment section below, and if you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next time.